All right, so today we are going to be diving into marijuana stocks. It's an industry that's projected to grow like crazy.
Yeah.
34% annually until 2030.
It's huge.
Huge is an understatement, but I hear it's not as simple as just throwing money at anything with a pot leaf on it.
Right.
Luckily, we've got some experts in the house, or, well, not really in the house, virtually, in the podcast with us today.
Exactly.
Excerpts from NerdWallet, The Motley Fool, and U.S. News and World Report.
That's a great mix.
They're going to give us all the angles, all the insights, all the things. So let's unpack this.
Absolutely.
NerdWallet comes right out the gate and calls this a speculative investment, which is already like...
a little iffy.
Yeah, a little... You know what I mean? And then they mention scams.
Yeah, you're going to get that.
Which, honestly, that sends chills down my spine.
Unfortunately, that's the truth, though. I mean, anytime there's a new market, you're going to get people that are trying to take advantage of other people. So you just got to be really careful.
It's true.
Informed.
And it's not even just about scams. It's about just the inherent risk of this market. Many marijuana companies are considered small cap or even micro cap.
Yeah.
So for those of us who don't speak Wall Street, what does that actually mean for investors?
Well, think of market cap as a measure of the company's size.
Okay.
How big it is.
Okay.
Small cap, micro cap. Those companies don't have the same track record as some of these big companies.
Right.
And they may not be as stable as a result.
Gotcha. So it could be more risky.
Yeah, higher volatility.
Yeah.
More risky for sure.
And it's not just about the size of these companies. It's also about where their stocks are traded. NerdWallet really stresses the importance of sticking to the major exchanges.
Yes.
The New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ. What makes these exchanges better for investing in marijuana stocks?
I mean, it's a sign that a company has met certain standards in order to be listed there.
It's like a stamp of approval almost.
Right. More strict requirements and greater regulatory oversight.
It's like getting a background check.
Before you jump into a financial relationship with somebody.
Basically.
That makes sense. But even with those precautions, we still have this massive elephant in the room.
Yes.
Marijuana remains federally illegal in the United States.
Okay.
So how do we reconcile these two things? The Motley Fool and U.S. News and World Report both dedicate a lot of space to this in their pieces.
Yeah, it's a big question mark.
It's a big question mark.
Huge question mark for a lot of investors.
Now, the DEA is considering a reschedule of marijuana to Schedule 3.
This is big.
Everyone is talking about this.
Yeah.
What's the big deal about this potential shift?
So right now, marijuana businesses are subject to this IRS Con Section 280E.
Okay.
And it really penalizes companies dealing in Schedule 1 substances.
Okay.
So we could be talking tax rates of 70% or more.
That's insane.
It is. So rescheduling would basically mean that marijuana companies could operate like any other business.
Like a normal business, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that would change the game when it comes to their bottom line.
For sure. U.S. News and World Report even said that could lead to much higher profits.
I can see why this is making people who are invested in this market very excited.
Definitely.
What a game changer. So that potential rescheduling has investors on the edge of their seats, but it sounds like even with that potential positive change, there are still a ton of factors to weigh before diving head first into marijuana stock.
Oh, yeah. U.S. News and World Report made it very clear this is still a volatile industry.
Okay.
And they said that operational efficiency and a strong balance sheet are key indicators of a company's potential.
It's not just about riding that legalization wave.
Exactly.
It's about picking the companies that can actually navigate all of the challenges that come with that.
Right. And a lot of companies won't survive.
They'll go up in smoke, you're saying.
Basically, yeah.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So you're saying that due diligence and careful research are super important here?
Absolutely. The Motley Fool actually offered their top stock picks.
Oh, they did.
For 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that they emphasized was vertical integration.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't fully understand what that means.
So basically, vertical integration is when a company controls multiple stages of the supply chain.
Okay.
So from like cultivation to processing to retail.
So like Apple.
Exactly like Apple. They design the iPhone.
Yeah.
They control the manufacturing, and they sell it to you.
So in the marijuana industry, companies that do this, that have that vertical integration, they could have better quality control, they could manage their costs better.
Yep, it's all about efficiency.
Okay.
And maximizing those margins.
Now, the Motley Fool's list includes some names that I definitely recognize.
Yeah, like who?
Green Thumb Industries and True Leaf Cannabis.
The players.
They're doing the growing and the selling, but they also mentioned something called ancillary businesses.
Yes.
And this is interesting to me. What are ancillary businesses?
So these are the companies that support the marijuana industry but don't actually touch the plant.
Okay.
Think of it like picks and shovels during a gold rush.
I love that analogy. That's really good.
Sometimes the best investments are not the obvious ones.
Give me some examples. What kind of businesses are we talking about?
So one example is Innovative Industrial Properties.
Okay.
And they're a real estate company.
Sure.
Specifically focused on the medical cannabis market.
Wow.
So they'll buy properties from these operators and then lease them back.
Wow. So they're providing the space.
They are providing the capital.
Okay.
In an industry where traditional financing can be hard to come by.
Talk about a niche market.
For sure.
They found a need and they're filling it.
They did. And it doesn't stop there. You've also got companies like Quest Diagnostics, which is a huge company in the lab testing world.
Right.
And they play a huge role in drug testing.
Okay.
And then you've got Turning Point Brands.
Turning Point Brands, they make smoking accessories, right?
Yeah, they've got like papers and pipes and all that.
So they're cashing in on the boom.
Exactly.
Even without actually dealing with the plant itself. That's pretty interesting.
It's a really interesting angle.
It's true what they say. A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
Or in this case, a growing industry lifts the fortunes of the companies that support it.
I like that.
But even with these less obvious opportunities, we still need to remember that marijuana stocks are risky.
Yeah, for sure. NerdWallet really stresses being cautious and strategic.
Yeah, they're not messing around. They really emphasize doing your research, especially when it comes to a company's market cap. Why is that so important?
So market cap is basically the company's overall value.
Mm-hmm.
And because a lot of marijuana companies are still pretty small,
Right.
it could mean that they don't have as much market share.
Okay.
They may not have access to as much capital. And it could mean that the stock price is going to be all over the place.
So it's less stable.
Exactly.
And probably more risky for the average investor.
Unless you're okay with a lot of risk.
Right. If you're looking for that big reward.
Right.
Higher risk, higher reward.
And then on top of that, you've got to think about where the stock is traded. NerdWallet says you got to stick to those major exchanges.
Yeah. The New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, why are those better?
It just means there's more oversight, more transparency.
Gotcha. So less chance that something shady is going on.
Exactly. When you start talking about over-the-counter stocks,
OTC.
it gets a little scary.
Yeah, a little murky.
You just don't know as much about those companies.
So sticking to the well-lit streets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Stick to the places you know.
Love it. Now, NerdWallet also had another piece of advice I thought was really interesting. They said to pay attention to analyst coverage.
Analyst coverage.
I'll be honest, I don't always understand what those analysts are saying.
Sure.
Should I be basing my investment decisions on what they're saying?
I mean, you definitely want to look for reputable research firms.
Okay.
Like Morningstar.
I've heard of them.
They really do their homework.
Okay.
And if they're covering a company, it's probably worth a look.
Especially in the marijuana industry. There's just so much to keep track of.
Absolutely.
It's overwhelming. And there are so many different types of marijuana companies.
Yeah. U.S. News and World Report actually did a great job of breaking it down.
Okay.
They talked about these companies called MSOs.
MSOs.
Multi-state operators.
Okay. So like the big dog.
Yeah, like Curaleaf Holdings and Green Thumb Industries.
I've heard of those.
They operate in multiple states.
So as more states legalize marijuana, these companies are in a great position.
Exactly. They're already set up.
Smart.
And they've got the experience.
That's key.
And they're already making moves. Curaleaf is expanding into hemp-derived THC beverages.
Interesting. Hemp-derived THC beverages. That's a mouthful.
It is. It's a growing market.
I bet. Why hemp-derived, though? What's the difference?
So hemp-derived products often fall under different regulations, meaning they're legal in more states than traditional marijuana products.
So they're one step ahead of the game?
Exactly. Whether or not federal legalization happens.
They're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
I like that.
But even within this hemp market, there's got to be a lot of competition.
Oh, tons. It's a total free-for-all right now. I mean, everybody's trying to get a piece of this hemp-derived THC beverage market.
So you're saying even if they look good on paper,
Yeah.
investors still need to be careful.
You got to look beyond the hype for sure.
What are some of the things that investors should be looking for?
Well, you want to see a solid track record.
Okay.
Can they actually adapt to change?
Right.
Are they ready for more competition?
Makes sense.
Because U.S. News and World Report was very clear about this. Not all of these companies,
Right.
even the ones that are doing well right now,
Yeah.
are going to make it.
It's survival of the fittest out there.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to something that NerdWallet mentioned. Those scams.
Ugh, Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
It feels like scams are everywhere these days.
They really are. And the marijuana industry is no exception.
NerdWallet even said that the SEC is already waving red flags about this. What should investors be on the lookout for?
The biggest thing is unsolicited offers, especially if they're promising you these crazy returns.
If it sounds too good to be true.
It probably is.
That's good advice for life in general, I think.
Right. And then always do your research.
Okay.
On anybody who's selling marijuana stocks.
Okay.
Make sure they're legit.
Ask the tough questions.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to walk away.
Better safe than sorry.
100%.
Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on something that both the Motley Fool and U.S. News and World Report talked about. Even if marijuana becomes federally legal, that's not a guarantee of success for these companies.
No, it'll be huge for the industry.
Yeah.
But it won't magically turn a bad business into a good one.
Right.
You still need a solid plan.
Yeah.
You need to be able to adapt.
But really is a stress test for a whole industry.
Pretty much.
Only the strong will survive.
You got it.
So as we navigate this very complex, very interesting world of marijuana stocks, what's your biggest piece of advice for investors?
You know, it's interesting because we've been talking a lot about investing in these individual marijuana companies.
Right.
Which can be risky.
Yes.
But when you look at the bigger picture, the future of marijuana investing might not be about the plant itself.
Okay.
It might be about the businesses that support the growth.
Those ancillary businesses we were talking about.
Exactly. Those picks and shovels.
That's really interesting food for thought.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to strike gold yourself,
right,
you're investing in the companies that are selling the tools.
Exactly.
I like it. I like it a lot. Well, that is all the time we have for today's deep dive on marijuana stocks. Thank you so much for listening.
This was fun.
And remember to do your research. Be careful out there.
Be smart.
Don't get scammed.
Absolutely not.
And we'll see you next time.